Alright, so today you should have already completed the 4.1 quick quiz check, and you should have had a little bit of time to go over your quizzes in Miss Vales's room. If you haven't done so already, because the video is playing before you've done that, Miss Stemman, please have them move into their testing seats, manila folders, and same rules as yesterday. When they're done their quiz, they will put down their pencil, walk over to Miss Vales's room, and check their answers with a colored pencil or color pen. There should be some in that room for them. Alright, so at this point, the quiz should be over, and you should be doing homework check number 3. So 10 points for doing, 5 points for checking. Can someone walk over, get the yellow slips for the class? I should mention, I did want you guys in the lab, but I realized taking the quiz and some of the things that I wanted to do, it's actually just easier to do it as a whole class. So I'm sorry that I wasn't able to get you guys to be able to view the class video on your own. Alright, so if you have homework questions, you're welcome to ask Miss Stemman right now. Miss Stemman, if you could press pause to go over any homework questions that they have. Thank you. So at this point, homework questions should be done. We are going to do a quick review of pretty much 4.1. I'm just going to go through all the major things that you should know. So what I would like for you to do is, in your groups, could you please identify what you would write in these 3 top boxes? We'll do the paper in, I think, a set of 3 different sections. So in your groups, please write down what you think is most important. Please use a pencil in case you want to make some corrections or change or add to the box. I am going to go through each box with you. So, Ms. Denman, if you could press pause to let them work. Thank you. So, at this point, you guys should have gone through these 3 boxes, and I can identify a maximum. Notice that the box is kind of small. I think some of you may have written like the whole 5-step process, but all I want is little things off to the side. We will go through everything, and I believe the 5-step process does get written in later. So to start off, I know I am guaranteed extrema, max, and min if. And not just extrema, can you first make sure that you understand this is asking you for absolute extrema. How do you know you're guaranteed absolute extrema? We know, number 1, if f of x is closed, if they have endpoints, right? And then number 2 would be if f of x is continuous on the closed interval. So again, we don't care if there's a vertical asymptote before the interval begins. We only care about within the interval. Alright, so off to the side, I can identify a maximum using f prime by. So what I'm going to do, I'm literally just going to do a little sign chart for f prime. You would either have it be undefined or 0 at that maximum. And maximums only occur if it's plus or minus. Now, we also want to identify if it's a left endpoint or a right endpoint, and we'll do them both right here. So this is what I was looking for. We're going to start off by doing the left endpoint here. Left endpoint would be to get a maximum to occur. The graph would need to go down after the endpoint. But if I want the maximum at the right endpoint, I would have to go up to the endpoint. So that's what the endpoints look like. Now that you see that, you know what goes on the right hand side. Minimums occur when our sign chart is undefined or 0 here, and then negative to positive. And remember how do we know that? We know that because the graph goes down and then up, and that's how we know we have a minimum. Other things, remember, minimums and maximums can only occur as long as the value is not crossed out. We cross out values when they're not part of the domain. Oopsie, good lord. Sorry guys. Let's go back. So, to do a left endpoint, to get a minimum, I would have to go up from the left endpoint. But if it's a right endpoint, I would have to come down to the endpoint. So that would look like this. Alright? So, here, I want you to just write down a few things, and then in your groups talk about what you've written down, and then I'll go through the major concepts. You don't need to erase things that you have down as long as they're not incorrect, so you can have more than what I write in a few minutes. So Ms. Stedman, if you could pause for me, please. Alright, so I know I need to find the domain because, remember, extrema can only happen within domain. And really what that means, you might not have that written, what that means is max and mins can't happen at crossed out values. No crossed out values on f prime. Okay, so if you end up having a crossed out value, so if this is f primed and at this value, let's call it c, the derivative is undefined. But at this value d, the derivative is also undefined. This one's crossed out, meaning it's not part of the domain. So that's really the reason why we find the domain. We want to make sure we don't get confused about labeling it a max or a min. If this one's not crossed out, we know that that's a corner, cusp, or vertical tangent because it's a continuous point. The middle section, I know I will need to find the derivative. What I need to do with the derivative is, number one, simplify completely. And remember, what does that mean? That means one common denominator. We need to factor, and we need to make sure we get rid of negative exponents. They are confusing. Second thing we'll need to do, we'll have to set it equal to 0, we'll have to set it equal to undefined, and then number 3, we'll create a f prime sign chart. So those are the major things we need with our derivative. Alright, sometimes there are endpoints. What should I do with them? Let's see. First of all, again, Ms. Stedman, press pause if they need a little time. Okay, endpoints. What I should do with them is, number one, you want to make sure that f prime only uses your endpoints. This is a left endpoint, this is a right endpoint. Secondly, if the endpoints are closed, then endpoints will be extrema. They'll either be a max or a min, as long as the derivative after the left endpoint is positive or negative, and then before the right endpoint is positive or negative. And so the major thing you want to make sure is if you have endpoints, you'll probably have multiple maxes or mins, and you want to use the XY chart to compare values. If you have two different maximums, but they're asking you for an absolute maximum, you want to check the Y values of each max to figure out which one's the absolute max. I'll tell you, endpoint problems usually mean your maximum is probably one of the endpoints, or your minimum is probably one of the endpoints. It's because the AP is checking to see if you remember to check your endpoints. Alright. At the bottom, again, Ms. Stedman, give them some time to fill in a few things in each box. Walk around and just make sure they're not waiting for me to give them the answer, please. Alright, so at this point you should have a few things written in. Issues I can find with the domain. We have three major issues. We have x in denominator. We have x in an even root. And just to make sure we understand what that means, I'm going to write a few even roots. So this is an even root. And this is an even root. The roots are in the denominator of the exponent. Alright, and then the last one is x in log or ln. And remember, E does not have a domain issue. Alright, there are local and there are absolute. I can tell the difference by, and this goes back to that XY chart, XY, by comparing Y values. So you really only have to do this if they ask you for absolutes. Otherwise, we just label them all max and mins. We don't even write the word local. We just write every single local max and min. Alright? And then the 5-step process goes at the bottom here. So, oh lordy, every single time. Sorry guys. Okay, so 5-step process. Step 1, domain. Step 2, endpoints. And we do this to check for EVT. I don't put it as a step necessarily because I just want you to think about it. Number 3, find f prime, simplify it completely, set it equal to 0, set it equal to undefined. You have to simplify completely to be able to solve for those. Number 4, f prime sign chart. And then number 5, only if you're asked for absolutes do we do step 5, which is the XY chart. Figuring out which value is either bigger for maximums or smaller for minimums. The one thing I want to mention is I use f prime here, but remember I did some multiple choice questions where, let's say if I ask you to find the maximum on the function acceleration, then acceleration is your f function, and the derivative, is what I would need to find to be able to set it equal to 0, set it equal to undefined. So this just means derivative. The function might not be named f. Remember we had another function where we were asked to find the maximum on f prime, and that was the one where we had to find f double prime equal to 0, equal to undefined. So just keeping that in mind. That's just a quick review of what you need to know in terms of things kind of to memorize. The rest of it is just being able to do. So you have to be able to find the derivative of any function. You have to be able to simplify the derivative as much as possible. You should be able to do domain. You should be able to read a sign chart, make a sign chart, identify max and mins, compare locals and absolutes. We've done all of those together. So your homework would be good practice. And then today, quiz 2, the key will be up on Edmodo. So far on Edmodo, you should have flip charts and videos already posted. You should have the homework keys already posted. You should have the Chapter 4 book and the Chapter 4 book key posted. And then lastly, the quiz, the quick checks, those keys are posted. So hopefully everything is being posted for you. If not, Ms. Stedman, if you can ask my aide to help you with that. Thank you. All right, good luck on your quiz tomorrow. When you come in tomorrow, please go directly to testing seats. I want you to have the full 45 minutes. Thanks.